So moving on to transportation, you still have to get around, right? So public bus, trains, metro, those are still good options. Yes, they have surveillance. Yes, there is, again, a privacy and anonymity trade-off, but you can pay cash and you can get where you need to get. A cab, similarly, or a gypsy cab. Greyhound is, from what we can tell, the only longer distance transit option. As of this point, they still accept cash. We're not sure how long that's going to change. They have indicated plans to start requiring ID, but they haven't enforced it yet. There are a lot of people who claim that they are starting to do security checkpoints, but they're easy to get around. You can wait for the next bus. You can get out of line and avoid them, and it's something you'll need to be aware of. But so far, we're still going to recommend it. Carpool or rideshare or working through a community, if you're living in one, is another way to go. And then lastly, the best way to be an independent traveler is to use anything that doesn't require a registration. A 50cc scooter or less can be used just by purchasing it, or a bicycle, anything like that works well. The next step is being aware of all the tracking that goes along in your daily life. From your iPhone, your Google phone, your Samsung phone, whatever you've got, it's going to have GPS and Bluetooth. You need to leave those disabled. They can be used to track you. It's best to turn the cell phone off entirely if you're not expecting a call or using it, since the cell network can be used to track you. Wi-Fi works the same way. People can track you through that. It's also a good reason for you to make sure that your security is tight on all of your devices. If a hacker is able to gain entrance to your devices, they can use that to follow you around. And then RFID is everywhere. You need to have an RFID zapper and zap everything you get. Don't assume that your clothes, just because their clothes are safe. RFID is being used for everything. And you need to have an RFID purse, wallet, jacket pocket, something that is shielded so that if you do make a purchase of goods, you can leave it in there until you get home and can zap it.
Good place to stop for a momentary giveaway.
You want to do that?
Talking about RFID?
Sure.
All right, so while we're on the topic of RFID shielding, so we actually have a giveaway here, and while speaking of unobtainium, these are actually no longer available. These were swag at last year's Shmoo. So this is an RFID blocking passport wallet, nicely labeled with Shmoo on the front of the wallet. So for a RFID blocking passport wallet, the question we have, does anybody here know, or were you able to determine through one means or another, how many surveillance cameras there are in this hotel?
In the entirety of the hotel. Is anyone either paying attention enough or has tried to ask a security guard?
Would you like to say something, Ducky?
0.
All right, so nobody's jumping at the opportunity, so we have kind of a part 2 then, and hopefully someone will have picked up on this then. Not knowing the full number of cameras, and we'll tell you that number in just a moment, does anybody know how many visible security cameras there are in the lobby of this hotel alone? Now, this is something that you could have picked up just by, again, having situational awareness, walking into the hotel, looking around, and saying, how many cameras do I see that can see me?
You have a...
I saw this hand over here in the corner, I think, first.
0.
You right there?
There are, in fact, 8.
Correct.
So you got it. That was the
excellent.
first thing we saw. There are 8 visible security cameras.
Good job.
8.
And through a little social engineering, we were able to find out on accident that they are claiming that there are 87 security cameras throughout the entire hotel.
We spoke with the security guard and we said, hey, can you confirm or deny that there are only 8 security cameras here in the lobby of the hotel? And he said, absolutely not. I can't tell you how many there are here in the lobby. There are 87 in the hotel, but I can't really tell you much more than that.
And then later he said, well, there's almost 100.
All right.
Okay,
so we now talk about communications here at the cloak level. So how are we going to begin to communicate with people now that we are becoming anonymous? We're looking here at the most basic, or kind of the protocol level, if you will. So from a telecom perspective, we're going to recommend the use of payphones or burners. If you're not familiar with the term burners, you really need to watch The Wire. Burners are basically these prepaid cell phones you can go pick up, again, at convenience stores. If you watch too much Law and Order, you'll hear the cops say, oh, they're completely untraceable and untrackable. Not true. However, they are certainly more difficult to trace and track than a cell phone for which you have a contract. So again, these are basically disposable devices. You go pick one up. It's got a set number of minutes. You use the minutes that come with the phone. You toss it after you're done and pick up another one. Now again, as Adam pointed out, this is certainly more costly than having a $29.99 all-you-can-eat cell phone plan from your local provider. You're going to pay, you know, a cash price on these phones, and by throwing them away, we're expecting you to get a new one every week or month or whatever duration of time you need. So we know this is more expensive. We're ignoring the cost factor here and focusing instead on anonymity alone. When we talk about getting on the internet, again, at the protocol level, we're going to suggest that you use email lightly. Bear in mind, email is a stateful service. It is designed for communication between specific parties. Now, that's not to say that there aren't still some anonymous remailers out there, but for the most part, we're going to suggest light use of email. You could theoretically use something like IRC. We also want to draw your attention to the fact that because of the close relationship between IRC and botnets, at least in modern usage, there's a lot more attention paid to IRC than there has been in the past, whether by law enforcement or even just by security professionals like ourselves who are out trying to shut down botnets. The fact remains IRC is now a place where you might stand out as much as you might blend in. Question?
Yes, what are your thoughts on the prepaid pagers? You can buy lifetime pagers for $100. So it's one-way communications, but...
So to repeat the question was, what do we think about the prepaid pagers, which are much like the burner cell phones, but you basically, again, pick these up prepaid? And the honest answer to that question, unless you want to add anything out of it, is we hadn't really considered it. I would speculate that they are probably of equal value, although...
So the basic premise we approach with communications in general is, A, if you can obtain it without providing any form of identification and paying only in cash, then that's an acceptable first start. So if that applies to these, then that's great.
Right.
And then 2, anything that you use for an extended period of time begins to build an identity. So you're going to want to toss that and get another one of these pagers after about 6 months to a year or whatever you feel uncomfortable.
Right, prepaid or not.
Yes.
The other observation is what network it's on. So with the,
Right.
with the possible phones, generally they're on cellular networks that are available throughout the country.
Sure.
So the problem with pager networks is they're generally not. They're regional.
So to repeat that, what he was saying is you have to bear in mind that with the prepaid cell phones, these are generally on GSM or CDMA band, and therefore they are across the country or available and usable throughout the country, whereas the pagers are more likely to be regional. So for 2 reasons. Number 1, again, that might limit your ability to use them, but that might also narrow down where you are potentially using them from. So take that into consideration. And great questions and great follow-up as well.
And another thought, too, from a privacy perspective is we saw recently at the Hackerspace in Atlanta that these two-way pagers use an unencrypted form of communication that is very, very easy to drop in and listen to. So you want to be aware of that with those types of systems.
All right,
and if you've been watching GSM, I guess the GSM talks, I guess really the same thing applies to the phone.
If you guys saw Chris Padgett's talk, that was phenomenal and lots of fun, right? He was talking about GSM and the just massive failures with GSM crypto, and before he even got to the crypto, he pointed out that they didn't really have to attack the crypto in GSM in order to really take advantage of the phones and networks. So if you haven't seen Chris Padgett's talk, I highly suggest you go pick up a copy of the video. It was outstanding and highly relevant to this topic.
All right, last thing before we move on, I promise, but this is also very important in regards to long-distance prepaid cards, and this applies to anything else that you obtain that has an account number. If you're going to keep that card in your wallet and then someone is going to be able to get your wallet, they can get that account and then look at every number you've dialed, right? So A, you're going to want to destroy the original copy of that account number, and then B, you're going to want to write that down in an encrypted fashion on a piece of paper that you put in your wallet. If you use a simple Caesar cipher or something real basic like add a fixed number to every number, that's good, but if you're more math inclined, a more complicated cipher method would be better to store those account numbers so that if someone obtains your wallet, they can't know immediately, oh, that's an Alltel long distance card. Let's go find out every number he's dialed in the last 6 months.
The last reference we make on this slide under the header of encryption is for off the record. Off the record is a specific mechanism that is used most commonly with either instant messaging or IRC. The premise behind off the record is a means of providing encrypted communications with plausible deniability. What off the record aims to do is eliminate the use of any digital signatures or any identifying data that could conclusively prove or that would provide non-repudiation that you participated in a certain conversation. So if you want to have encrypted communications via instant messenger, but you don't want to be able to be identified as one of the parties in that communications, using off the record can help to alleviate, again, some of the potential for being tracked by those very communications or conversations themselves. All right, getting online at the Cloak level, again, we're going to talk now about some of the things that you can do to get online. Obviously, in getting online, you're going to want to aim to use public kiosks or free and local Wi-Fi. The preponderance of free and local Wi-Fi now means you can pretty much go anywhere, at least in Georgia, and I don't know about everywhere, but, you know, Crystals now has free Wi-Fi. Crystals is like little miniature burgers, I guess White Castle for the